Picture a civilization so advanced, so mysterious, that its influence echoes across thousands of years, yet its origins remain shrouded in enigma. This is the world of the Olmec, the so-called mother culture of Mesoamerica, a people who carved colossal stone heads with hauntingly expressive faces and left behind artifacts so puzzling they defy easy explanation. These weren't just artists or builders, they were visionaries whose work predates the Maya and Aztec by centuries, laying the foundations for everything that followed. And yet, despite their towering legacy, so much of their story is written in riddles carved in jade, etched in stone, and buried deep in the jungles of Mexico. What if I told you that among their treasures lie 25 objects so strange, so utterly baffling, that even today's top archaeologists can't fully unravel their secrets? Imagine holding a polished magnetite mirror, its surface so precise it could have been forged with modern tools, yet it dates back over 3,000 years. Or stumbling upon a figurine with features so distinctly unhuman, it sparks wild theories of ancient contact with otherworldly beings. These aren't just relics, they're time capsules whispering of forgotten technologies, lost rituals, and perhaps even knowledge we've yet to rediscover. This is a journey into the heart of one of history's greatest puzzles. We're not just examining artifacts, we're peeling back layers of time to confront questions that challenge everything we think we know about the Olmec. How did they achieve such precision without metal tools? Why do some of these objects seem to depict beings that defy explanation? And what might their cryptic symbols reveal about a civilization that vanished, leaving behind only fragments of its brilliance? Strap in, because by the end of this exploration, you'll see these ancient wonders not as dusty museum pieces, but as keys to a door we've only just begun to open. The answers, or lack thereof, might just leave you speechless. Standing guard in the humid jungles of Mexico, the Olmec Colossal Heads are more than just sculptures, they're silent giants from a lost world. Carved from single blocks of volcanic basalt, some tower over 9 feet tall and weigh as much as 50 tons, equivalent to a dozen elephants. The sheer scale is staggering, but the real mystery lies in how they got there. These boulders weren't local, they were hauled from mountains dozens of miles away, across rivers and swamps without wheels or draft animals. Some speculate the Olmec used log rollers and rafts, while others whisper of lost technologies or even supernatural aid. But the enigma deepens when you study their faces. Each head is unique, with fleshy cheeks, wide noses, and lips curled in expressions that range from stern authority to quiet contemplation. The most striking detail, their helmets resembling those worn by ancient ball players, suggesting these might be portraits of rulers immortalized as sports heroes or deified warriors. Yet some features seem almost African or Eurasian, sparking wild debates about transoceanic contact thousands of years before Columbus. 17 heads have been found so far, scattered across Olmec heartland sites like La Venta and San Lorenzo, often buried deliberately, as if hiding them from time itself. Were they toppled by invaders or ritually killed to release their power? The stones keep their secrets, but one thing's clear: these weren't just decorations. They were statements carved in rock to declare, "We were here," and somehow, against all odds, they still are. Now let's turn our attention to an artifact that blurs the line between art and ritual: the Kunz Axe. Crafted from luminous blue-green jade, this ceremonial object isn't a tool for chopping, but a masterpiece of Olmec symbolism, carved into the form of a wer-jaguar, a creature half human, half beast. The craftsmanship is breathtaking, the jade surface polished to a watery sheen, the creature's almond-shaped eyes slanting upward with an otherworldly gaze, and its snarling mouth bearing teeth that seem to flicker between human and animal. Every curve suggests motion, as if the axe might transform in your hands. The Kunz Axe wasn't just ornamental, it was likely a sacred object, wielded by shamans in rituals to channel the jaguar's power. In Olmec belief, the jaguar wasn't merely a predator, it was a bridge between worlds, a creature that could move between the physical realm and the spirit underworld. Imagine a ceremony where the shaman, gripping this axe, invoked the word jaguar's ferocity and cunning, perhaps to heal, to divine the future, or to protect the community. The axe's weight, cool and dense in the hand, would have made it feel alive, a vessel for forces beyond human understanding. It gets its name from George Kunz, a pioneering mineralogist who acquired it in 1890 and recognized its significance when few others saw beyond primitive carvings. Today, it resides at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, displayed like a relic of a forgotten myth. But here's what's haunting: the Kunz Axe isn't alone. Similar jade celts have been found across Mesoamerica, all echoing this hybrid design. Were they badges of office for a secretive priestly class, or fragments of a shared belief system that spanned centuries? When you stare into the word jaguar's eyes, you're not just seeing a sculpture, you're peering into a world view where the boundaries between man, beast, and God were fluid, and where jade wasn't just stone but the solidified breath of the divine. Deep in the ruins of La Venta, one artifact stands as a chilling testament to the power and mysticism of Olmec rulers Altar 4. At first glance, it appears to be a massive rectangular block of stone, but lean closer, and the scene carved into its surface comes alive. A figure crouches within the gaping mouth of a cave, gripping a thick rope that coils around the sides, binding a line of terrified captives. This isn't just a throne or a sculpture, it's a political manifesto in stone. The central figure, likely a ruler or god-king, emerges from the underworld itself, symbolizing his divine right to rule, his connection to the realm of ancestors and spirits. The cave isn't merely a backdrop. In Olmec cosmology, caves were portals to the supernatural, places where the veil between worlds grew thin. By depicting himself rising from one, the ruler proclaims he's not just a man, but a living bridge between the earthly and the divine. Now look at the captives. Their wrists are bound by the very rope the ruler holds, their bodies contorted in submission. This is power made visible, raw, unapologetic, and reinforced by myth. The ruler doesn't just defeat his enemies, he tames chaos, embodying order itself. The bas-relief carvings are astonishing in their detail. The folds of the ruler's headdress, the intricate knots in the rope, the individual facial features of each captive, some with eyes wide in fear, others resigned to their fate. Every stroke of the chisel served a purpose, a visual language meant to awe and intimidate. Altar 4's true genius lies in its duality. Functionally, it may have been a throne, a seat of judgment where the ruler presided over ceremonies or dispensed justice. But ritually, it was an altar, a place where sacrifices, whether symbolic or real, would have cemented the ruler's authority. Imagine the scene, smoke curling from incense burners, the ruler seated atop the stone, the bound captives at his feet, their fate a stark reminder of the cost of defiance. This artifact doesn't just depict power, it performs it. What's haunting is how familiar it feels. The propaganda of domination, the theatrics of control, these aren't ancient concepts. From Roman triumphal arches to modern political imagery, rulers have always used art to shape perception. But the Olmec did it first, and with a sophistication that still resonates. Altar 4 isn't just a relic, it's a mirror, forcing us to confront the uncomfortable truth that some forms of power never really change. The cave still waits, the rope still tightens, and the ruler's gaze, even in stone, still demands obedience. Among the most enigmatic of all Olmec artifacts, the Limas Figure captures a moment of eerie intimacy, a serene youth seated cross-legged, cradling a limp jaguar infant in their arms. Carved from shimmering greenstone, the sculpture radiates quiet power, its smooth surfaces catching the light like water. But the real mystery lies in the 4 miniature faces peering from the figure's shoulders and knees. each one a deity, a frozen pantheon revealing the Olmec spiritual cosmos. Discovered in 1965 by two children playing near the village of Los Limas, Mexico, the figure was buried as if hidden deliberately, its green hue gleaming beneath the dirt. The kids had stumbled upon more than just a curiosity. They'd uncovered a theological Rosetta Stone. The central figure's androgynous features, soft yet stern, have sparked debates for decades. Is this a priest, a god, or perhaps a mythic ancestor? The way they hold the word jaguar baby, its feline snout slack, suggests a ritual act, an offering, a rebirth, or even a funeral. The infant's unnatural posture, limbs dangling, hints at sacrifice or transformation, a theme echoing across Olmec art. Now focus on those four tiny faces. Each represents a distinct deity, mapping the corners of the Olmec spiritual world. There's the cleft-headed rain god, precursor to the Aztec Tlaloc, his goggle-eyed stare fierce. The flame-browed maize deity, symbolizing sustenance and renewal. The shark-toothed monster of the underworld, a reminder of death's inevitability. And finally, the hooked-nosed sun god, ruler of the heavens. Together, they form a compact cosmology: earth, sky, life, and death, all balanced on the shoulders of a single figure. What makes the Los Limas sculpture extraordinary isn't just its craftsmanship, but its storytelling. It's a portable altar, a theological diagram, and a narrative all at once. Imagine this object in motion, passed among initiates during ceremonies, its deities invoked in whispers, the word jaguar's fate serving as a parable. The green stone itself held meaning. To the Olmec, it symbolized fertility and the sacred breath of the earth. Every inch of this artifact was designed to teach, to terrify, and to transcend. Here's what lingers: the children who found it weren't archaeologists. They were locals, descendants of people who might have once worshipped such figures. In their hands, the Los Limas statue bridged millennia, a silent messenger from a world where gods walked among men, and stone could hold the weight of the divine. Hidden among riverbed stones in the 1990s, the Cascajal Block might be the most controversial artifact in Olmec archaeology, a slab of serpentine weighing 26 pounds, etched with 62 strange symbols arranged in deliberate rows. Dated to around 900 BCE, these markings could represent the earliest writing system in the Americas, predating Maya script by centuries. But here's where the mystery deepens. Are these symbols true writing, a coded language conveying specific words and ideas, or merely proto-writing, a rudimentary system of symbolic notation? The symbols themselves are mesmerizing. Some resemble insects or plants, others abstract geometric designs, a fishhook here, a squiggled line there carved with surprising precision. What's striking is their arrangement, not haphazard but organized into clear horizontal lines, suggesting a narrative or ritual purpose. Imagine holding this block, tracing your fingers over grooves worn smooth by time, each mark a potential echo of a scribe's voice. Supporters argue the symbols follow patterns seen in later Mesoamerican writing, like repetition and grouping, hinting at a shared linguistic ancestry. Yet skepticism lingers. The block was discovered out of archaeological context, recovered from a construction site where heavy machinery had already disturbed the ground. Without clear stratification, layers of earth that help date artifacts, some scholars question whether it's genuine or an elaborate hoax. Others point out that no other Olmec writing has been found, making this block a lonely outlier. Could it be an ancient doodle, a tradesman's tally marks, or even a modern forgery planted to rewrite history? The debate isn't just academic, it's a battle over the origins of thought itself. If the Cascajal Block is true writing, it reshapes our understanding of how ideas spread across ancient Mesoamerica. But if it's proto-writing, it's still revolutionary, a glimpse into the moment symbols first began to carry meaning beyond simple pictures. Either way, this unassuming stone slab forces us to confront a tantalizing question. How does humanity cross the threshold from drawing things to recording language? The Olmec might have left us the answer, but the symbols for now keep their silence. At the heart of San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan, Monument 14 looms like a sentinel from another age, a 9-ton throne carved from basalt, where an Olmec ruler once sat in regal silence, his back pressed against the stone like a living bridge between worlds. The scene chiseled into its surface is both a political statement and a cosmic map. The ruler perches atop the gaping maw of a cave, his feet dangling above the void, as if emerging victorious from the underworld itself. Traces of red pigment still cling to the stone's crevices, remnants of a once vibrant hue that would have made this throne blaze like a beacon during ceremonies. This isn't just furniture, it's a theological lightning rod. In Olmec belief, caves weren't mere holes in the earth. They were living arteries to Xibalba, the realm of gods and ancestors, where mist coiled like serpents and time moved backward. By depicting himself rising from this threshold, the ruler wasn't just claiming power, he was staging his own origin myth, portraying himself as a being forged in the sacred dark. The cave's jagged edges mirror the mouths of Olmec jaguars, those hybrid deities who straddled life and death, suggesting the ruler didn't just descend into the underworld, he conquered it. Look closer at his posture. Unlike the rigid portraits of later civilizations, this figure leans forward slightly, his hands resting on his knees in a pose that's both relaxed and charged with potential energy. He isn't a distant god-king, he's a participant poised to spring into action. The throne's sides ripple with abstract carvings, perhaps water symbols or stylized clouds hinting at his control over natural forces. And then there's the pigment. The red wasn't arbitrary, it mirrored the life-giving clay of the earth, the color of blood and rebirth. In the flicker of torchlight, this throne wouldn't just seat a ruler, it would breathe. Monument 14's genius lies in its duality. Functionally, it anchored ceremonies where the ruler dispensed justice or received tribute, but ritually, it was a stage for existential theater. Imagine the scene, the ruler descending from the throne to enter the cave during solstice rites, then re-emerging before the crowd, his body smeared with the same red ochre as the stone, enacting a cyclical drama of death and resurrection. The message was unmistakable. This man didn't just rule the present, he commanded the very cycle of existence. Here's what haunts me, we'll never know whose brow once bore the weight of this throne's symbolism. Was he a conqueror, a priest-king, or something more, a figure so entwined with myth that even his subjects couldn't separate man from legend? Monument 14 doesn't just depict power, it asks us how much of history is carved in stone and how much is painted in shades we've long since forgotten. The red may fade, but the stone's whisper endures. To rule is to stand between worlds, one foot in the light, the other in the dark. Beneath the pyramid at La Venta, offering 4 weights like a time capsule sealed by ancient hands, a meticulously arranged tableau of 16 jade figurines, their tiny faces turned skyward in eternal vigil. Found buried in a precise semicircle, each figure stands no taller than your palm, carved from the finest jade with features so distinct they seem to whisper secrets across millennia. But this isn't just a collection of trinkets, it's a ritual frozen in stone. The figurines face inward toward 6 upright serpentine axes, their alignment mirroring the path of celestial bodies. Some archaeologists believe this configuration maps the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker revered across Mesoamerican cultures for signaling agricultural cycles. Others see it as a council of ancestors, their jade bodies absorbing prayers to carry into the spirit world. Now, shift your gaze downward to the jade mosaic pavement, a 5-foot square masterpiece of geometric precision. Over 600 jade tiles, each painstakingly cut and polished, form a stylized jaguar mask, its gaping maw a portal to the underworld. The tiles aren't merely glued, they're set into a bed of asphalt, a material the Olmec harvested from natural seeps, proving their sophisticated knowledge of chemistry. When sunlight struck this mosaic during solstice ceremonies, the jade would have shimmered like water, transforming the floor into a living, breathing entity. The jaguar's eyes, crafted from obsidian, would have gleamed with predatory intensity, its gaze locking onto worshippers as they crossed the threshold between realms. And then there are the mirrors, 3 concave discs of magnetized hematite, their surfaces polished to a liquid sheen. Held at the right angle, they could start fires by focusing sunlight or project distorted reflections that twisted faces into supernatural visages. But their true power lay in their magnetism. When suspended on strings, these mirrors align with Earth's magnetic field, a phenomenon the Olmec may have interpreted as divine communication. Imagine a shaman crouched in the pyramid's shadow, tilting a mirror to catch the sun's glare while whispering to ancestors only they could see in the reflection's warped depths. Together, these artifacts form a trinity of sacred technology. The figurines map the heavens, the mosaic routes ritual to earth, and the mirrors harness unseen forces. But what's chilling is their burial. They weren't discarded, they were interred with ceremonial care, sealed beneath layers of colored clay, blue for the sky, green for fertility, red for lifeblood, as if the Olmec feared their power might escape. Were they gifts to the gods or warnings? The answer might lie in their alignment. When plotted on a map, these offerings form a straight line running 8 degrees west of true north, a deliberate orientation found at other Olmec sites. Whether pointing to a forgotten sacred mountain or mirroring the Milky Way's path, one thing is clear. Every detail was measured, every material chosen, not for this world but for the next. Among the Olmec's most striking creations, the wrestler defies expectations, a basalt masterpiece so lifelike, it seems to capture a moment of electrifying tension. The figure crouches, muscles taut, one arm raised as if mid-motion, his broad chest and powerful thighs rendered with anatomical precision that borders on realism. His bearded face, a rarity in Olmec art, adds another layer of intrigue, with deep-set eyes and a furrowed brow that convey either fierce concentration or otherworldly possession. This isn't the stylized symbolism of other Olmec sculptures. It's a pulse of frozen energy, a snapshot of a man caught between action and intent. But who is he? The name, the wrestler, stems from early interpretations of his pose, a combatant bracing for a match. Yet look closer, his fingers aren't clenched in fists but splayed as if channeling unseen forces. Some scholars argue this isn't an athlete at all, but a shaman mid-ritual, his body contorted in the throes of a trance. The Olmec believed spiritual power often manifested physically, with shamans adopting postures resembling wrestling holds to grapple with spirits. His beard, unusual for indigenous Mesoamericans, might signify age or wisdom, or perhaps a connection to mythic ancestors depicted with similar features. The truth, both readings could be right. In Olmec culture, the line between physical combat and spiritual battle was razor thin. The sculpture's modern history is as dramatic as its pose. In 1968, thieves nearly stole it from Mexico's National Museum of Anthropology, slicing through its base before guards intervened. The damage remains visible, a scar across its pedestal, a reminder of how close the world came to losing this treasure. Today, it stands as a testament to Olmec artistry, its polished surfaces reflecting light in a way that makes the stone seem to breathe. What's mesmerizing isn't just its craftsmanship, but its ambiguity. The wrestler doesn't offer answers. He embodies duality, strength and surrender, humanity and divinity. Whether athlete or mystic, his power lies in the questions he provokes. In his coiled limbs, we see not just a man, but a mirror. How much of history's physicality is performance, and how much is prayer? The stone holds its secrets, but the tension, that raw, palpable energy, is a language anyone can feel. Buried in the red earth of El Azuzul, 2 stone figures stand frozen in time, near-perfect twins carved with such synchronicity, they seem to echo each other's breath. Discovered in 1987 flanking a weathered jaguar throne, these statues are more than art, they're a riddle wrapped in basalt. Each stands just over 4 feet tall, their youthful faces softened by time yet radiating an eerie serenity. Their posture is identical, elbows bent, hands resting lightly on their knees as if awaiting a command. But it's their headdresses that steal the gaze, towering, ornate crowns adorned with abstract symbols, possibly representing celestial bodies or the tangled roots of sacred ceiba trees. The twins' proximity to the jaguar throne is no accident. Jaguars symbolized raw power and shamanic transformation in Olmec cosmology, and the throne's low, sleek form suggests it was meant for ritual seating, perhaps for a ruler embodying the beast spirit. But why place twins beside it? Scholars point to the Popol Vuh, the Maya creation epic written millennia later, where the hero twins Hunahpu and Xbalanque outwit the lords of the underworld through cunning and rebirth. The parallels are uncanny, youthful figures associated with jaguars, duality, and triumph over darkness. Could the Olmec have been the first to codify this myth, their twins serving as prototypes for the Maya's legendary pair? Look closer at their faces. Unlike the mature, heavy-featured visages of Olmec rulers, these figures have rounded cheeks and smooth brows, their expressions hovering between innocence and otherworldly knowing. Their slightly parted lips hint at speech or incantation. Their eyes, though weathered, still hold traces of inlaid obsidian or shell that would have made them gleam like living beings under torchlight. Every fold of their headdresses is a deliberate stroke, some sections resembling maize leaves, others evoking the stepped patterns of pyramids. These aren't portraits, they're incarnations. The mystery deepens when you consider their placement. Excavators found them oriented east-west, aligned with the sunrise, as if their gaze tracked the sun's journey, a feature mirrored in later Maya ceremonial architecture. The jaguar throne between them forms a triad, a recurring sacred configuration in Mesoamerican thought. Were they guardians of a portal, participants in a reenactment of cosmic order? Or perhaps ancestral twins, frozen in stone to eternally witness ceremonies of power? What lingers is the intimacy of their craftsmanship. The twins aren't imposing like colossal heads, they're approachable, designed to be seen at eye level. This suggests they weren't meant to intimidate but to connect, to draw the viewer into their silent dialogue. When you stand before them today in Mexico's Anthropology Museum, their paired presence still hums with unspoken meaning. They don't just reflect myth, they ask us how many threads of belief stretch unbroken across centuries, and how much of what we call Maya or Aztec was once whispered in Olmec stone. La Venta Stela 3 stands as one of the most tantalizing glimpses into the Olmec mind, a 6-foot-tall slab of volcanic stone carved with a scene so deliberate, it feels like a frozen moment from a 3,000-year-old diplomatic drama. At its center, 2 figures face each other in what could be a tense negotiation, a sacred pact, or even a celestial audience. The taller figure, likely a ruler, looms with an ornate headdress cascading down his back, his arm raised as if mid-speech. Opposite him, a smaller figure, perhaps an emissary or subordinate, tilts forward with rapt attention, their postures locked in a dance of power and protocol. But the real story isn't just in their stance, it's in the swirling symbols framing them. Among the glyphs, one stands out, the quincunx, a 4-pointed diamond with a central dot, a symbol so potent it would echo through Maya and Aztec art for centuries. This wasn't mere decoration, it was a cosmic map. The 4 points represented the cardinal directions, the center the axis mundi, the sacred pivot linking Earth to the heavens. The Olmec weren't just recording an event, they were anchoring it in the fabric of the universe. Now, zoom in on the glyphs themselves. These aren't random scratches but some of the earliest examples of hieroglyphic writing in the Americas. A few resemble later Maya scripts, a twisted chord here, a stylized corn kernel there, hinting at a shared symbolic language that predates the Maya by a millennium. One cluster might depict a date, another a place name, but without a Rosetta Stone to decipher them, their meanings remain whispered secrets, the most compelling theory. This stela commemorates a royal meeting, perhaps a tribute agreement or a dynastic marriage, with the quincunx symbolizing the divine sanction behind the pact. Imagine the scene, the stone freshly carved, painted in vibrant ochres and blues, erected in Venta's ceremonial core where smoke from incense burners would have curled around the figures, bringing them to life in the flickering light. What makes Stela 3 revolutionary is its duality. It's both document and altar, a political record and a ritual object. The ruler's headdress mirrors the quincunx's shape, visually fusing him with cosmic order. His raised hand might hold a now eroded object, a scepter, a weapon, while the smaller figure's posture suggests deference or perhaps resistance. The tension between them is palpable, a snapshot of Olmec statecraft where every gesture was theology in motion. Even the stone's placement mattered. It stood near Venta's massive pyramid, aligning with solstice sunrises, as if the meeting it depicted needed celestial witnesses. Here's the haunting part: we're seeing only half the conversation. The glyphs we can't read, the pigments long faded, the context lost their gaps in a story etched in stone. But the quincunx endures, a reminder that for the Olmec, politics wasn't just about power. It was about positioning human affairs within the infinite, ensuring that even a fleeting handshake between rulers resonated in the stars. When you stand before this stela today, you're not just looking at art, you're eavesdropping on history's oldest boardroom where deals were struck under the watchful eyes of gods. High on the cliffs of Chalcatzingo, where the wind howls through narrow passes, 2 stone monuments tell a story written in storm and myth. Monument 1, known as El Rey, isn't just a throne, it's a canvas. Carved into its surface, swirling clouds and cascading droplets envelop a seated figure, his face serene as if orchestrating the downpour. This isn't mere decoration, it's a manifesto of control. The Olmec revered rain not just as life-giver but as a deity's breath. And here, the ruler merges with the tempest, his throne a nexus between the earthly and the divine. The carving's depth tricks the eye. The clouds seem to roll across the stone, their curves echoing the natural contours of the rock as if the mountain itself were speaking. But descend the slope, and Monument 9 shatters expectations. A word jaguar soars mid-air, limbs outstretched, its hybrid body caught between beast and man. The craftsmanship is kinetic, every muscle taut, the tail whipping behind it like a serpent in motion. Most striking, the creature doesn't just fly, it emerges from a cave-like mouth in the rock, a literal birth from the earth. This isn't fantasy, it's theology in 3 dimensions. The Olmec saw jaguars as storm-bringers, their growls echoing thunder. By placing this sculpture near El Rey, they welded predator to precipitation, suggesting the ruler didn't just command rain, he harnessed the feral force behind it. Location is everything. Chalcatzingo sits where the highlands meet the clouds, a natural theater for thunderstorms. The Olmec didn't just adapt to this landscape, they weaponized its drama. Monument 1 faces east, catching the first light of dawn, a daily resurrection of the storm's power. Monument 9, tucked into a shadowed overhang, seems to flicker in shifting light, the word jaguar's eyes glowing when struck by angled sun. Together, they form a dialogue. One carving channels the storm's benevolence, the other its savagery. What's unnerving is how alive these carvings feel. Touch the grooves of El Rey's raindrops, and your fingers trace the same paths ancient priests did, following rituals lost to time. Stand before the word jaguar at dusk, and the play of shadows makes its snarl twitch. These aren't static artworks, they're frozen performances waiting for the right light, the right chant to wake them. The Olmec didn't just depict their gods, they gave them stage directions, scripting eternity into stone. The Princeton vase isn't just a clay vessel, it's a window into how the Olmec saw the very cycle of life and death. Crafted from fine orange ceramic around 3,000 years ago, This 8-inch tall masterpiece depicts the maize god bursting forth from the jaws of a supernatural mound, his body arched in triumph as stalks of corn sprout from his limbs like living veins. Every curve of the god's form mirrors the growth of a corn plant, his torso elongating like a tender shoot, his fingers splaying like tassels ready to pollinate. But the real power lies in the vessel's symbolism. That zoomorphic mound he emerges from, it's not just a hill, it's the Olmec vision of the underworld itself, a living, breathing entity with reptilian eyes and gaping jaws that simultaneously consume and rebirth. This duality, destruction and renewal, was central to Mesoamerican thought, and here, in vivid relief, we see its earliest known expression. The vase earns its name from its current home at Princeton University's Art Museum, where it arrived in the 1960s after surfacing in private collections. But its journey from ancient ritual object to modern display case is almost as intriguing as its imagery. Unlike most Olmec artifacts found in controlled excavations, the Princeton vase appeared on the art market without provenance, leaving archaeologists to piece together its origins through style and iconography. The ceramic's thin walls and precise firing suggest it came from a workshop of master potters, likely in the Olmec heartland of Veracruz. Its polished surface still bears traces of red pigment, hinting at how it might have gleamed when filled with ceremonial chocolate or pulp during rites honoring the maize god's resurrection. What sets this vase apart is its narrative clarity. Later Mesoamerican cultures like the Maya would elaborate on the maize god myth, but the Olmec version is raw and immediate. No ornate glyphs, just pure visual storytelling. The mound's jaws resemble both a cave, a portal to the underworld, and a jaguar's maw, linking it to the Olmec's most sacred predator. The god's emergence isn't passive. He actively pushes against the earth's grip, his facial expression serene but his musculature tense with effort. Even the cornstalks are dynamic, some tender and new, others mature and heavy with kernels, compressing the entire agricultural cycle into a single moment. Scholars argue this vase might be more than ritual ware. It could be a cosmological map. The mound's shape echoes the Olmec's man-made pyramids, suggesting their temples weren't just buildings but symbolic replicas of this mythic terrain. When filled with liquid, the vase's interior would have hidden the god until the drink was poured, mirroring his journey from darkness to light with each libation. And here's the haunting part. Similar vessels show the maize god descending back into the mound, completing the cycle. Life, death, and rebirth weren't abstract concepts to the Olmec. They were a choreography etched in clay, performed every time the rains came and the corn grew tall. The Princeton vase's true genius lies in its simplicity. Without a single written glyph, it communicates a theology so profound it would shape Mesoamerican thought for millennia. To hold this object is to cradle the Olmec's understanding of existence itself, where every harvest was a resurrection and every seed carried the memory of the underworld's embrace. San Lorenzo Monument 34 defies gravity in stone, a 12-ton basalt figure caught mid-motion, its avian features frozen in a moment of supernatural transition. With wings swept back like a diving raptor and a humanoid face caught between serenity and intensity, this sculpture blurs the line between man and myth. The figure clutches a ceremonial bar across its chest, a symbol of authority seen in later Mesoamerican art, but here the bar seems less a scepter and more a conduit, as if channeling energy from the heavens to the earth. The pose is where the mystery deepens. Unlike static Olmec carvings, Monument 34 pulses with implied movement. One leg extends as if pushing off from an invisible surface, while the other bends mid-stride, creating the illusion of flight or perhaps a shaman's ecstatic dance. The wings aren't literal feathers, they're stylized swirls and grooves that mimic the flow of wind, a masterclass in depicting motion through stone. Some scholars argue this isn't just a birdman hybrid but a snapshot of spiritual metamorphosis, a shaman straddling realms during a hallucinogenic trance. The slightly parted lips could suggest chanting, while the hollowed-out eyes, once inlaid with obsidian or shell, would have gleamed with uncanny lifelikeness in firelight. Then there's the ceremonial bar. In Maya and Aztec art, such bars often represented the world tree or axis mundi, a bridge between cosmic layers. But here, its placement is strikingly intimate, gripped vertically against the chest as if containing or directing power. The bar's surface bears faint carvings too worn to decipher, though some speculate they depict streaming mist or ancestral faces. This object wasn't merely decorative, it anchored the figure's role, whether as deity, intermediary, or both. Alternative theories swirl like the sculpture's implied wind currents. Could this be an early depiction of the feathered serpent, a deity later worshipped as Quetzalcoatl? The avian elements align, but the absence of serpent motifs gives pause. Others propose it's not a god at all, but a ruler performing ritual flight, his costume and bar serving as props in a sacred drama. The truth might lie in between. Olmec art frequently portrays transformation as a fluid process, not man becoming bird, but embodying the essence of flight, its freedom and perspective. Monument 34's discovery amid San Lorenzo's royal precincts hints at its importance. This wasn't hidden away, it stood prominently, perhaps as a guardian or oracle. The stone's very weight, seemingly defied by its airborne posture, would have awed onlookers, a paradox made solid, earthly mass imbued with celestial intent. Today, cracks mar its surface, but the energy remains. When sunlight rakes across the wings at dawn, shadows shift like passing clouds, and for a heartbeat, the figure seems ready to resume its journey between worlds. The bar still waits, the wings still strain, and the unanswered question lingers. Are we witnessing a moment of arrival or departure? Buried beneath La Venta's sacred soil, offering 1942, awaits like a ghostly garden 15 slender jade celts planted upright in damp clay, their polished surfaces glinting in the subterranean dark as if thirsting for sunlight. Discovered in a precise rectangular arrangement, this isn't a random cache of treasures but a deliberate composition, a silent hymn to forces we're only beginning to understand. Each celt, a ceremonial axe head shaped like a maize leaf, stands sentinel, their edges aligned so precisely they hum with intentionality. But the real shock came when archaeologists checked their compasses. The entire formation pointed exactly to magnetic north, a feat requiring knowledge of Earth's invisible pull millennia before the invention of the magnetic compass. The theories surrounding this offering are as layered as the clay that cradles it. Some scholars see a sacred ceiba tree, the world tree of Mesoamerican cosmology, its roots in the underworld, its branches brushing the heavens, mirrored by the Celts' vertical thrust. Others argue these are stylized corn plants, their jade surfaces symbolizing the life-giving green of young maize, their alignment echoing agricultural rows. The Olmec didn't just grow crops, they venerated them, weaving myth into every stalk. Imagine a ceremony where priests chanted over this miniature field, invoking growth, rain, and the earth's fertility through the Celts' enduring stone. Then there's the magnetism. Jade isn't magnetic, yet the offering's northward orientation can't be coincidence. The Olmec might have used lodestone's naturally magnetized iron ore to find true north, aligning rituals with cosmic forces. This isn't mere symbolism, it's proto-science, a recognition of Earth's hidden architecture. The Celts' placement could have been a way to anchor spiritual energy, much like later cultures aligned pyramids with celestial events. But the most haunting detail is the offering's fragility. These Celts weren't buried haphazardly. They were planted, their bases pressed into wet clay that hardened over centuries, preserving their positions like fossils of faith. When excavators first brushed away the earth, the Celts still trembled at the slightest touch, as if resisting exhumation. Today, they're displayed in situ at Mexico's National Museum of Anthropology, their original arrangement intact, a frozen moment of devotion. What lingers isn't just the how of their alignment, but the why. sacred trees and maize fields matter, but magnetism, that hints at a sophistication we've barely scratched. Were the Olmec mapping unseen forces, or did they believe magnetic north held divine power? The Celts keep their silence, but their precision speaks volumes. This was a culture that didn't just worship nature, they conversed with its deepest laws. Carved from luminous greenstone and small enough to fit in your palm, the Tuxtla statuette punches far above its weight in historical significance. This 3-inch-tall figure depicts a hunched being with an exaggerated duck-billed mask, its bulbous eyes and hooked beak giving it an almost cartoonish aura at first glance. But lean closer, etched across its belly runs a column of elegant glyphs, a message from the 2nd century that bridges the Olmec world with the civilizations that followed. Dated to 162 CE, this inscription isn't just decoration. It's one of the earliest surviving examples of Epi-Olmec writing, a script so sophisticated it predates the famous Maya glyphs by centuries. What makes the statuette revolutionary is its duality. The duck-billed mask suggests ties to rain deities. Waterfowl were seen as messengers between realms in Mesoamerican cosmology, while the glyphs reveal something startlingly human, a calendar date. The long count inscription places it firmly in the early classic period, a time when the Olmec's direct influence had waned but their intellectual legacy flourished. The script itself is a Rosetta Stone moment, blending Olmec iconography with phonetic elements that would later evolve into full-fledged writing systems. Imagine holding this artifact, the cool greenstone, the grooves of each glyph worn smooth by time, a coded whisper from an era when history was just beginning to be recorded rather than merely remembered. But the mask itself tells another story. Unlike the stoic realism of Olmec Colossal Heads, this caricature-like beak and bulging eyes suggest ritual theater, perhaps a shaman channeling a water spirit during ceremonies. The figure's hunched posture echoes later depictions of scribes and scholars, hinting that this wasn't just a ritual object but a badge of office for someone who wielded the power of words. Some scholars even propose the duck symbolizes the sacred act of writing itself, the bill mimicking a stylus pressing into bark paper. Then there's the mystery of its survival. Discovered in 1902 by a farmer plowing fields near the Tuxtla Mountains, the statuette's journey from burial to the Smithsonian was fraught with skepticism. Early archaeologists dismissed the glyphs as too advanced for their proposed age, until subsequent finds proved the Olmec successors had indeed refined their script into a complex blend of art and language. Today, the statuette stands as proof that ideas outlive empires, that while the Olmec cities crumbled, their inventions took root across Mesoamerica, flowering in the minds of scribes who might never have known their debt to the mother culture. What lingers isn't just the statuette's age or script, but the audacity of its existence. In a world where most history was transmitted orally, someone chose to carve time itself into stone, ensuring their moment would echo across 18 centuries. The duck-billed figure seems almost to smirk, as if it always knew we'd come looking and that even now we've barely begun to decipher its secrets. Beneath the still waters of El Manotti's sacred spring, time stood still for over 3,000 years. Here, in the oxygen-starved depths, the Olmec left offerings so delicate, their survival defies logic. Wooden busts with haunting, hollow eyes and rubber balls so pristine, they still bounce with the memory of ritual games. These aren't just artifacts, they're snapshots of a spiritual dialogue between humans and the forces they couldn't see. Start with the busts, carved from cedar wood, a tree revered as the axis of the cosmos. Their faces are studies in minimalist power. Smooth planes suggest cheekbones, shallow grooves trace closed eyes, and slightly parted lips seem poised to whisper. Unlike the monumental stone heads, these busts are intimate, small enough to cradle in your arms, their surfaces worn silken by hands that once carried them in procession. But here's the chilling detail: every bust was ritually killed before burial. axe marks cleave their foreheads, their noses smashed as if releasing the spirit within. This wasn't vandalism, it was sacrament. The Olmec believed objects held life, and to deactivate them was to send their essence onward like breaking a vessel to free the smoke inside. Then there are the rubber balls, preserved by the spring's unique chemistry. They're the oldest surviving examples of the Mesoamerican ball game's equipment, some still holding their shape after millennia. Made from the latex of local rubber trees, mixed with morning glory juice to enhance elasticity, their craftsmanship reveals a startling sophistication. These weren't toys, they were sacred objects, their bounce echoing the movement of celestial bodies. The game itself was no simple sport. It reenacted myths of death and rebirth, with players' hips striking the ball, symbolizing the sun's daily struggle against darkness. At El Menotti, the balls weren't merely deposited. They were sliced open, their cores exposed like sacrificial hearts, then laid to rest alongside the broken busts. What ties these offerings together is their deliberate destruction. A shattered bust mirrors a burst rubber ball, both acts of ritual unraveling. The spring wasn't a dumping ground, it was a threshold. By killing these objects, the Olmec transformed them into messengers, carrying prayers for rain, fertility, or safe passage to the underworld. The water, heavy with minerals, became a preservative and a purifier, locking these fragile treasures in a state between decay and eternity. Standing before these artifacts today, you're not just seeing wood or rubber, you're witnessing the birth of a cultural DNA that would spiral through Mesoamerica. The ball game evolved into the grand courts of the Maya and Aztec, while the practice of ritual destruction echoes in smashed pottery at later sites. The busts, with their serene defiance of time, remind us that some conversations between the living and the divine are too sacred to be left to chance. They had to be buried, broken, and bathed in waters that remembered. Zapote's monument illumes with quiet defiance a colossal head distinct from its siblings, not just in its weathered features but in the bewildering helmet that crowns it. Unlike the smooth, rounded headgear of other Olmec heads, this one flares at the sides like modern ear guards, cupping the figure's temples with deliberate protection. The grooves chiseled into the stone suggest padding or straps, details so precise they seem to whisper of function over ornament. And that's the puzzle. Why would a ruler need such a helmet unless they weren't just presiding over games but playing them? The theory gains traction when you compare this head to others. At La Venta and San Lorenzo, the colossal heads wear headbands or simple caps, symbols of authority, not armor. But Monument A's design mirrors gear seen on later Maya ballplayer figurines, where thick leather guards shielded athletes from the bruising impact of rubber balls that could weigh over 8 pounds. The Olmec ball game wasn't mere recreation. It was a ritual reenactment of cosmic battles where players' movements mimicked the sun's journey through the underworld. If this head does depict a ball player, it's no ordinary athlete but a deified champion, revered enough to be immortalized in basalt. Then there's the face itself. While other heads exude stoic grandeur, Monument A's expression is almost kinetic, lips slightly parted, brows furrowed as if mid-game, concentration etched into every line. The erosion obscures finer details, but the tension in the jawline suggests exertion, a snapshot of exertion frozen in stone. Even the positioning feels intentional. Zapote's was a late Olmec center, where the ball game's significance may have evolved from ritual to spectacle, blending sport and politics. But the most compelling clue lies in the helmet's asymmetry. One ear guard appears more pronounced, as if battered by repeated strikes, a subtle nod to the player's dominant side. This isn't idealized portraiture, it's a record of lived experience, a champion's scars rendered eternal. Imagine the message this sent. Here was a man who wrestled gods on the court, whose victories ensured cosmic order, whose likeness deserved to tower over the plaza. Monument A challenges our assumptions. If it honors a ball player, then the Olmec pantheon included athletes among its demigods. their exploits as vital as any ruler's decrees. Or perhaps the roles merged, a king proving his divinity through athletic prowess, helmeted not for war but for the sacred sport that held the universe in balance. The stone doesn't answer, but the helmet's shadow stretches across history, a silent testament to the games that shaped civilizations. Dug from the sacred soil of La Venta, the jade mosaic mask gleams like a shattered dream reassembled, a life-sized face composed of over 200 individually cut jade tiles, each piece no larger than your thumbnail. When archaeologists first unearthed these fragments in 1942, they lay scattered like a celestial puzzle, their original wooden backing long since melted into the earth by time's relentless damp. What emerged after years of meticulous reconstruction was nothing short of haunting. A face both serene and severe, with almond-shaped eyes that seemed to follow you across the room, and lips slightly parted as if whispering an incantation only the gods could hear. The mask's crossed bands motif is where the mystery deepens. Framing the eyes and mouth, these intricate lattice patterns reminiscent of woven mats or perhaps stylized lightning aren't mere decoration. In later Mesoamerican cultures, similar designs symbolized portals, marking the thresholds where spirits crossed between worlds. But here, carved in jade so translucent light passes through it like water, the bands might represent something even more profound. The Olmec vision of the cosmos as an interwoven tapestry where every thread vibrated with sacred energy. The mask's curvature suggests it once adorned a wooden statue, possibly a deity or deified ancestor, the jade's cool weight contrasting with the warmth of living timber in a deliberate play of materials. Reconstructing this artifact was an act of faith. Without the original adhesive, likely tree resin or rubber sap, modern conservators had to decode the Olmec's intentions through tile thickness and subtle variations in green hue. Some pieces fit snug as scales, while others left deliberate gaps, creating shadow lines that would have danced in torchlight. The result isn't just a mask, it's a kinetic illusion, shifting expressions as the viewer moves, now stern, now sorrowful, now staring straight through you with the unnerving stillness of something not entirely human. Then there's the material's journey. The jade itself came from the Motagua River Valley in Guatemala, over 600 miles away, a testament to the Olmec's far-reaching trade networks. Each tile was ground and polished using quartz, sand, and water, a process so labor-intensive it might have taken a single artisan years to complete. Why invest such effort? Because to the Olmec, jade wasn't just a stone, it was the crystallized breath of creation, the verdant soul of the earth made solid. Wearing it, even in fragmented form, wasn't adornment, it was transformation. Today, the mask resides in Mexico's National Museum of Anthropology, its tiles held in place by nearly invisible wires, but stand before it long enough, and the gaps between the jade pieces start to feel intentional, as if the Olmec left space for the divine to seep through. The crossed bands no longer seem like mere decoration but a map, a guide for spirits navigating the divide between the seen and the unseen. The mask doesn't just represent a face, it offers a choice. Peer into it, and you might just glimpse the loom on which reality itself was woven. Hidden in the rugged mountains of Guerrero, the Oxtitlan cave paintings ignite the imagination with their explosion of color, bokeh reds, deep blacks, and startling whites that have defied 3,000 years of humidity and time. Unlike the monumental stonework of other Olmec sites, these murals unfold across the cave's natural contours, transforming jagged rock into a canvas for the sacred. The central scene stops you cold, a towering figure enthroned upon a jaguar pelt dais, his body swathed in the spotted hide of the beast itself, as if wearing the animal's power like a second skin. His face, framed by a headdress of curling feathers, stares outward with an intensity that transcends the stone, part ruler, part deity, wholly commanding. What makes this throne scene revolutionary is its foreshadowing of Mesoamerican art to come. The jaguar-robed figure's posture, one arm raised, the other resting on his knee, mirrors later Maya depictions of kings receiving divine authority. Even the throne's design, with its stepped platform and cascading pelt, feels like a prototype for the elaborate seats of Palenque or Capan. But here's the twist: the Olmec version strips away the later Maya's ornate glyphs and regalia, leaving raw presence. This isn't propaganda, it's revelation. The cave's natural acoustics amplify whispers into echoes, suggesting the space wasn't just for viewing, but for ritual performances where the boundary between actor and deity blurred. Zoom in on the pigments. The blacks aren't mere charcoal, they're manganese dioxide, mined from distant deposits and mixed with plant resins to adhere to the damp cave walls. The whites come from crushed calcite, reflecting torchlight like liquid silver in the gloom. This wasn't slapdash artistry, it was alchemy. The painters worked with an understanding of chemistry that allowed their work to outlast empires. And then there's the jaguar's pelt, rendered with such anatomical precision. The rosette patterns, the loose drape of the paws hanging over the throne's edge, that you can almost feel its weight. But the true marvel lies in the mural's periphery. Flanking the central figure are hybrid creatures, part bird, part serpent, their wings outstretched as if mid-flight. These aren't static decorations, they're narrative. One creature's beak touches a swirling motif that might represent wind or speech, a visual echo of the Maya's sacred breath glyphs. Another grasps a sinuous vine heavy with fruit, foreshadowing the agricultural symbolism that would dominate regional art for centuries. The Olmec weren't just painting a scene, they were encoding a cosmology where rulers drew power from nature's raw forces. Standing in Oxtatitlon today, the air thick with the cave's mineral breath, you realize these murals were never meant to be mere art. They were a bridge between the Olmec and their successors, between the human and the divine, between the flicker of torchlight and the timeless dark that remembers. The jaguar-robed figure's gaze still holds the same challenge it did millennia ago, to see not just the paint but the pulse beneath. Nestled in the rugged highlands of Guerrero, far from the Olmec heartland, the sunken court of Teopantecuanitlan rises, or rather descends, into view. This rectangular plaza, carved 12 feet below ground level and flanked by 4 towering basalt sculptures, feels like a piece of Olmec grandeur transplanted onto foreign soil. The court's very architecture is a paradox, a space designed to elevate the sacred by sinking it into the earth. The sculptures loom over the sunken floor, their colossal heads and crossed arm postures unmistakably Olmec in style. Yet their presence here, hundreds of miles from San Lorenzo or La Venta, has sparked one of archaeology's fiercest debates. Did the Olmec conquer this land, or did local rulers so revere their culture that they recreated its symbols to legitimize their own power? The court's irrigation system only deepens the mystery. A network of stone-lined channels, precise as surgical incisions, feeds water into the sunken plaza with hydraulic sophistication unmatched in the region. During the rainy season, the channels direct torrents into a central ceremonial space, transforming the court into a shimmering mirror reflecting the sculptures above, a liquid stage for rituals we can only imagine. The engineering reveals an intimate understanding of hydraulics, yet the symbolism is pure Olmec. Water as a conduit between worlds, the earth's veins made visible. Now consider the sculptures themselves. 2 depict classic Olmec were jaguars, their hybrid snarls frozen in basalt, while the others show rulers gripping ritual bars, their headdresses adorned with maize iconography. The craftsmanship is impeccable, but the stone tells a story of dislocation. The basalt originates from the Tuxtla Mountains, an Olmec quarry site, yet here it stands in Guerrero, a geological fingerprint that could imply either long-distance trade or Olmec oversight. The sculpture's placement is equally deliberate, positioned at the cardinal directions, as if anchoring the court to cosmic forces. What's most revelatory is how the court's design diverges from Olmec norms. Unlike the open plazas of La Venta, this space is intimate, almost claustrophobic, forcing participants into close communion with the sculptures. The sunken design amplifies sound, turning whispers into echoes, suggesting ceremonies where voice and water intertwined. Local artisans may have adapted Olmec motifs to suit their own topography, blending imperial style with indigenous innovation. The questions linger like morning mist over the court. Was this an Olmec colony, a diplomatic outpost, or a local chief's audacious bid to claim Olmec mystique? The irrigation channels, still functional after millennia, murmur one certainty. Whoever built this marvel understood that power flows not just through stone, but through water, through earth, through the silent language of symbols that outlast empires. The court's greatest lesson might be that influence isn't always about control. Sometimes it's about inspiration so potent it compels others to dig their own foundations deeper. The colossal heads of the Olmec are more than just artistic marvels, they're logistical nightmares. How did a civilization without wheels, draft animals, or metal tools move 50-ton blocks of basalt across dozens of miles of swamps, rivers, and uneven terrain? The prevailing theory suggests a combination of brute manpower and ingenuity. Imagine teams of hundreds, perhaps thousands, rolling these stones atop log sledges, leveraging the region's abundant greasewood plants as natural lubricants to ease friction. Some experiments show that wet clay could have served as a makeshift slipway, reducing drag. But here's the twist. Recent studies reveal that the basalt source in the Tuxtla Mountains contains iron-rich deposits, leading to speculation the Olmec might have used lodestones or magnetic rocks to guide their path, aligning transport routes with Earth's natural polarity. Yet even these explanations strain credulity. Did they possess lost techniques like counterweight systems or water channels now erased by time? Or was the act of movement itself a sacred trial, infusing the stones with ritual significance through exertion? Then there's the greater enigma, the Olmec collapse. Around 400 BCE, their cities were abandoned, their monuments defaced or buried. Was it environmental catastrophe? Core samples from Lake Juxtlahuaca show severe droughts in the region, coinciding with their decline. Others point to volcanic eruptions in the Tuxtlas, blanketing farmlands in ash. But warfare may have played a role. Some colossal heads bear deliberate fractures, their noses smashed in acts of symbolic vengeance. The most haunting theory suggests the Olmec engineered their own demise. By ritually killing their monuments and burying them, they may have believed they could preserve their power in the underworld, a final offering to gods who'd turned away. Why bury artifacts at all? At La Venta, offerings weren't discarded, they were interred with geometric precision. Jade celts arranged in cosmic patterns, mosaics sealed under layers of colored clay. This wasn't disposal, it was communion. The Olmec saw the earth as a living membrane between worlds. By burying objects, they returned them to the womb of creation where their energy could regenerate. Some caches align with celestial events, suggesting these were time capsules meant to be read by future generations or deities. The most provocative idea comes from archaeologist David Grove, who proposed the burials were ritual taxidermy, freezing moments of sacred theater for eternity. Theories multiply, but the Olmec remain one step ahead. Each answer unravels into new questions, their silence a reminder that some mysteries resist solving. What's clear is this: their choices weren't accidents. Every buried cache, every defaced monument was a calculated dialogue with forces we're only beginning to name. The heads still watch from the jungle, their lips parted as if on the verge of speech, waiting for us to ask the right questions. The story of how these Olmec artifacts came to light reads like an archaeological thriller, a tale of chance encounters, stubborn perseverance, and technological breakthroughs that peeled back layers of jungle and time. It all began in the late 1800s when railroad workers in Veracruz stumbled upon a massive stone head half buried in the mud. Local farmers called them Negro heads, mistaking the broad features for African origins, but scholars dismissed them as oddities until 1925, when Franz Blom and Oliver Lafarge mounted the first formal expedition. Trekking through swamps alive with mosquitoes and venomous snakes, they uncovered not just heads but entire cities swallowed by ceiba trees and strangler figs. Their published sketches of La Venta's pyramid sent shockwaves through academia, proof that Mesoamerica's mother culture wasn't mythical but real. Fast forward to 1938, when Matthew Stirling's team made history at Tres Zapotes. Working with local guides who spoke of the hill that weeps stone, Stirling uncovered monument during a torrential downpour. As rainwater sluiced away centuries of dirt, the Colossal Heads' helmeted visage emerged inch by inch, its rain-slicked surface gleaming in the storm light like it had been waiting for them. Stirling's wife Marion captured the moment in photographs that would ignite an Olmec research frenzy, proving these weren't isolated carvings but fragments of a vast civilization. The real game-changer came in the 1950s with the discovery of San Lorenzo. Archaeologist Michael Coe and his team spent years painstakingly mapping the site, but their eureka moment arrived unexpectedly when a worker's shovel struck not dirt but the polished curve of an obsidian mirror. Following the trail, they unearthed offering 4, the jade figurine tableau arranged with celestial precision. Coe later described finding them as like stumbling upon a frozen ceremony, each figurine's placement holding silent clues to Olmec cosmology. Modern technology has rewritten the search altogether. In 2015, LiDAR surveys over the Isthmus of Tehuantepec revealed ghostly outlines beneath the canopy grids of plazas, pyramids, and even possible ball courts stretching far beyond known sites. One particularly tantalizing scan showed a colossal head-shaped mound near the Coatzacoalcos River, still unexcavated. Meanwhile, chemical analysis has traced jade artifacts to specific Guatemalan mines using isotopic fingerprints, while ground-penetrating radar recently detected a buried mosaic at La Venta that may rival the famed Jaguar pavement. The hunt isn't over. In 2022, archaeologists using sonar in the Grijalva River Delta identified stone structures submerged since ancient floods, potential evidence of Olmec coastal settlements now lying under 30 feet of water. Every discovery peels back another layer, yet the jungle guards its secrets fiercely. As one researcher put it after weeks of fruitless digging, only to find a jade celt inches from their campfire, the Olmec don't reveal themselves. They make you earn it. Forgery controversies loom like storm clouds over Olmec archaeology, casting doubt on some of the most tantalizing discoveries. Take the Cascajal Block, that serpentine slab etched with 62 cryptic symbols. When it surfaced in the 1990s, its authenticity hinged on 2 fragile pillars, the construction crew who reportedly found it in a rubble pile, and the tantalizing possibility it represented the New World's oldest writing. But skeptics pounced. Without stratigraphic context, the soil layers that helped date artifacts, how could anyone be certain it wasn't a modern hoax? Archaeologist David Grove pointed to the symbol's unusual clarity compared to weathered Olmec reliefs, while others noted its discovery near a road project where heavy machinery had churned the earth, potentially mixing ancient and modern materials. The block's defenders countered with its material, serpentine from the Olmec heartland, its carvings showing the natural wear of centuries. Yet the debate rages on, a reminder that in archaeology, provenance is everything. The authentication process itself reads like a forensic drama. For jade artifacts, scientists deploy X-ray fluorescence to trace elemental fingerprints back to Guatemalan quarries, a geological DNA test. They scrutinize tool marks under microscopes, hunting for the telltale gouges of prehistoric chisels versus modern rotary tools. Patina analysis reveals centuries of chemical reactions between stone and soil, impossible to replicate artificially. But even these methods falter with master forgers. In 2006, a renowned collector's Olmec jade mask hailed as a masterpiece, was exposed as a fake when UV light revealed modern glue beneath its reassembled fragments. The forger, a disgruntled restorer who'd studied ancient techniques for years. Some controversies stem from the Olmec's own mystique. Their art's bold simplicity, those minimalist curves and stylized features, makes it deceptively easy to mimic. A 2012 scandal erupted when a private museum's prized jade figurines, purchased for millions, were revealed to bear drill marks from electric tools. The giveaway, the speed and symmetry of the perforations, impossible with hand-powered drills. Yet paradoxically, the same traits that invite forgery also fuel skepticism of genuine pieces. The Los Limas figures near flawless greenstone surfaces prompted early doubts until mineral testing matched its jade to known Olmec sources. Even then, whispers lingered. Could it be a colonial-era replica? Why does this matter beyond academic squabbles? Because every disputed artifact warps our understanding of the Olmec's influence. If the Cascajal Block is genuine, it rewrites the timeline of Mesoamerican literacy. If forged, it becomes a cautionary tale about desperate hopes for missing links. Scientists now deploy isotopic analysis and 3D surface scanning to settle debates, but the shadows remain. Perhaps the greatest irony is that the Olmec themselves might have appreciated these deceptions, a culture that revered masks, transformation, and the fluidity of identity. In the end, the forgeries aren't just fakes, they're funhouse mirrors reflecting our own longing to crack the Olmec code, even if the reflection sometimes lies. The Olmec didn't just vanish, they seeped into the bones of every civilization that followed. Take the Maya, who flourished over 1,000 years later. Their famed maize god, resurrecting from the underworld with corn sprouting from his body, is a direct descendant of the Olmec's Princeton vase imagery. The jaguar god hybrids that prowl through Aztec temples. Those snarling faces first took shape in Olmec greenstone. Even the ball game, that deadly ritual sport, traces its roots to the rubber balls found in El Manati's sacred spring. The Olmec were the original architects of Mesoamerican thought, and their fingerprints are everywhere if you know where to look. Start with the quincunx, that four-pointed cosmic symbol carved into La Venta's stelae. The Maya didn't just borrow it, they expanded it into their world tree concept, where the cardinal directions anchored the universe. The Olmec's crossed band motifs, like those on the jade mosaic mask, evolved into the intricate lattice designs framing Maya doorways, portals between realms. And those colossal heads, their helmeted profiles resurface in the headdresses of Phalanx kings, their stone grandeur translated into feathered splendor. The Olmec invented the visual language of divinity, and later cultures spoke it fluently. Religious concepts ran even deeper. The Aztec rain god Tlaloc, with his goggle eyes and serpentine fangs, can't hide his debt to the cleft-headed Olmec storm deities. The Maya's hero twins, dancing through the underworld in the Popol Vuh, are spiritual heirs to the paired figures at El Azuzul. Even the act of ruler as deity, the king embodying divine power, was an Olmec innovation. When the Maya Lord Pakal descended his pyramid steps as the reincarnated maize god, he was reenacting a script the Olmec wrote centuries before. Artistic techniques tell the same story. The Maya's jade funerary masks, with their tessellated precision, owe everything to Olmec lapidary mastery. The Aztecs' basalt sculptures, though more refined, still echo the raw kinetic energy of the wrestler. And let's not forget the ceremonial axes. The Kunz Axes were jaguar evolved into the Maya's god sea scepters, symbols of royal authority. The Olmec didn't just inspire, they provided the toolkit. Yet the most haunting legacy isn't in grand monuments, but in the quiet details. The Maya's love of mirrors for divination that began with the Olmec's magnetized hematite discs. The Aztec practice of killing artifacts before burial, smashing pottery to release its spirit, mirrors the ritual destruction at El Manati. Even the way Mesoamerican cities aligned plazas to celestial events. That precision starts with Olmec offerings arranged to magnetic north. here's the twist: the Olmecs' influence wasn't just passive absorption. Later cultures actively revered them. At Teotihuacan, murals depict figures in Olmec-style headdresses as if channeling ancient legitimacy. The Aztec collected Olmec jades as heirlooms, calling them gifts of the gods. The Maya, they built their cities atop Olmec ruins, literal layers of history. The Olmec weren't forgotten. They were remembered as mythic ancestors, their artifacts treated not as relics but as living power. Standing in the shadow of a Maya pyramid or an Aztec temple, you're not just seeing another civilization. You're seeing the Olmecs' imagination refracted through time, their ideas stretched like rubber across millennia. They built the first frame, and every culture after simply stretched the canvas wider. The proof isn't just in the artifacts, it's in the patterns of thought that refuse to die. The Olmec didn't just leave a legacy, they became the bedrock of an entire worldview, their echoes vibrating in every glyph, every sculpture, every sacred ballgame played under the Mesoamerican sun. If you're itching to stand face to face with these enigmatic artifacts, Mexico City's National Museum of Anthropology is ground zero. Here, the colossal heads from San Lorenzo and La Venta loom like silent sentinels in the Olmec Hall, their basalt surfaces so finely polished you can almost see your reflection in the stone. Nearby, the lost Limas figure rests in a climate-controlled case, its jade glow undimmed by time, while the jade mosaic mask shimmers under careful lighting. Each tile positioned exactly as it was found, a shattered face pieced back into haunting wholeness. Don't miss the El Manotti wooden busts, their hollow eyes staring from behind glass, or the magnetite mirrors that still catch the light like obsidian pools. The museum's layout is a masterclass in storytelling, with artifacts arranged to trace the Olmec's influence across Mesoamerica, from early carvings to later hybrid pieces showing Maya and Aztec reinterpretations. Pro tip: visit on a weekday morning to avoid crowds and bring a notebook. The labels are dense with insights you'll want to revisit. Cross the border, and the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. holds its own treasures. The Kunz Axe takes center stage here. It's a jaguar snarl frozen in jade so vivid it looks wet to the touch. Nearby, the Tuxtla statuette sits in a softly lit display, its duck-billed mask and cryptic glyphs begging for closer inspection. The Smithsonian's strength is context. They pair Olmec pieces with later works from the Maya and Aztec, letting you spot the visual threads connecting centuries. For a deep dive, check their rotating exhibits. Recent shows have explored Olmec trade routes, with maps plotting jade's journey from Guatemalan mines to Gulf Coast workshops. Head south to Mexico's Jalapa Museum of Anthropology in Veracruz, where the vibe is more intimate. This is where you'll find the Tres Zapot's colossal head, its helmet's ear guards looking almost modern under the gallery lights. The museum's crown jewel, the El Azuzul twins, displayed as they were found flanking a replica jaguar throne, their synchrony even more striking in person. Jalapa's collection is lesser known but expertly curated, with interactive displays explaining how basalt was quarried and transported. Time your visit for the annual Day of the Dead celebrations, when the museum hosts nighttime viewings. Seeing these artifacts by candlelight is spine-tingling. For European travelers, Paris's Quai Branly Museum offers a surprising cache. Their Olmec room houses a sleek black basalt figure known as the Ambassador, its crossed arms and inscrutable smile shipped to France in the 19th century. It's a quieter experience here, with fewer crowds and moody lighting that makes the sculptures feel almost alive. Meanwhile, back in the US, the Princeton University Art Museum safeguards the Princeton vase, its maze god emerging from the underworld in a display that rotates to show every angle. Call ahead, their Olmec collection isn't always on view, but curators are often willing to arrange private showings for serious enthusiasts. Here's the insider advice most miss: regional Mexican museums often hold unsung masterpieces. The Museo Comunitario de la Venta, a modest building near the archaeological site, displays fragments of the original jade pavement and a scale model of the ceremonial center. In Villahermosa, Parque Museo La Venta blends jungle ambience with artifact viewing. Monuments are scattered along shaded paths, howler monkeys providing the soundtrack. And if you're chasing the elusive Cascajal Block, it's currently in a secure storage facility in Mexico City, accessible only by special request. Persistence pays off. Email researchers at INRH, Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, well in advance. They've been known to arrange scholarly viewings. Whether you're planning a pilgrimage or just browsing from home, many museums now offer virtual tours. The Met's online collection features 3D scans of Olmec celts you can rotate with a click, while Google Arts and Culture has ultra-high-res photos of the Kunz Axe's surface details. But nothing replaces standing before these objects, feeling the weight of their silence. As one curator told me, the Olmec don't give up their secrets in photos. You have to stand close enough for the stone to breathe on you. So pack your curiosity, your camera, and if you're lucky, a magnifying glass, because the devil and the divinity is in the details. The Olmec left behind a legacy that defies simple explanation. Artifacts so strange, so advanced, they force us to rewrite history. Those colossal heads, carved with uncanny realism, whisper of rulers who commanded thousands to haul 50-ton stones without wheels or beasts of burden. The Kunz Axe, with its hypnotic word jaguar snarl, reveals a belief system where humans and beasts blurred into one. Then there's the Limas Figure, cradling a limp word jaguar infant while 4 deities peer from its limbs, a portable altar to an entire cosmology. And who could forget the magnetite mirrors, polished to perfection, their surfaces warping reflections like portals to another world. Each artifact is a puzzle piece in a civilization that mastered jade work without metal tools, charted celestial movements without telescopes, and buried their greatest treasures as if hiding them from time itself. But the most haunting question isn't about what we've found, it's about what still lies hidden. The jungles of Veracruz and Tabasco are vast, their secrets guarded by tangled roots and sweltering heat. LiDAR scans hint at undiscovered cities, their outlines ghostly beneath the canopy. Rivers like the Coatzacoalcos might yet cradle submerged temples, their stones silent beneath murky waters. And what of the rumored caves where ochre paintings or jade caches could rewrite our understanding of Olmec rituals? With only a fraction of their sites excavated, every shovel strike could unearth another Cascajal Block, or something even more extraordinary. So here's the challenge. If you could unearth one Olmec artifact, what would it be? A lost codex, its pages crackling with glyphs we've yet to decipher. A throne room lined with murals of forgotten ceremonies, or perhaps a tool chest holding the very instruments that shaped their impossible stonework. Drop your dream discovery in the comments, because the Olmec's greatest gift might be the unanswered questions that keep us digging, wondering, and daring to imagine what else waits in the dark.